So welcome to our webinar, Act Locally, Build Globally. And I'd like to introduce you to our speakers this evening. First of all, Crista Renner. Crista is driven by a passion for service, focusing her energy on building healthier, more connected workplaces. She applies a trauma-informed and culturally sensitive approach to conflict resolution, helping senior leaders and executives foster cultures of fairness, integrity, and fellowship. Through conflict coaching, mediation, and restorative practices, Crista shares her insights into emerging trends to design lasting positive change. Her diverse backgrounds include a career as a speechwriter at Queen's Park and teaching entrepreneurship, marketing, and social media at Conestoga College. She also worked with startups at the University of Waterloo's Velocity Incubator. This experience equips Crista to handle challenges such as executive disagreements, shareholder conflicts, and organizational growing pains. She offers practical tools to cultivate deep accountability and trust within teams. Crista embodies the principle of service above self through extensive community and global work. She actively supports nonprofit leaders navigating organizational shifts, dedicated to strengthening their ability to serve their communities. Currently, she is applying her trauma-informed conflict resolution skills to support Ukrainian veterans returning from the front lines, committed to peace and healing beyond borders.
Thank you.
Marva Bailey Wisdom, Marva Bailey Wisdom is a deeply committed leader with more than 3 decades of advancing equity, inclusive policy, and transformative community building. She currently serves as a senior fellow at the Munk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy at the University of Toronto, with a focus on leadership and community building, women's issues, equity, and inclusion. Marva is a fellow of the Environics Institute for Survey Research, where she shepherded the groundbreaking Black Experience Project. She is co-director of the International Arts Everywhere Festival, advisor and coach to the Avon-Maitland District School Board, and a former lead advisor to the City of Guelph. In developing its international award-winning community plan that underpins the city's long-term strategic plan. A sought-after facilitator, moderator, and keynote speaker, Marva has worked nationally and internationally across public, private, and nonprofit sectors. Her policy work has also included prime ministerial appointment, co-chairing 2 policy platform committees. Among her numerous recognitions are the YWCA's Women of Distinction Award, Jamaican Canadian Association's Leadership Award, Order of Ontario, and Honorary Doctor of Laws from the University of Guelph. A Paul Harris Fellow, Marva is a proud Rotarian, currently serving as president of the Rotary Club of Guelph. Please welcome our panelists today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the work that you continue to do for our district and for Rotary overall. I am going to start us off with a land acknowledgement that is personalized in some ways. This is the way I was taught by Indigenous elders to ensure that I am connecting who I am to the work. And so we're so excited that you are here for this wonderful webinar, Peace Building and Conflict Prevention. And I thank Crista, my partner in crime, that we journeyed together along this path, and that Kathy and the committee that Kathy leads asked us to make this presentation with you at this webinar this evening. So thank you so much for taking time out to be here. I am thinking that it's primarily Rotarian, my fellow Rotarians, I'm going to say, but those who are not Rotarians, welcome you, and I hope you decide that you want to become a Rotarian after this. So let me start out by saying that we're gathered here virtually, and please situate yourself wherever you are in this, and reflect on where you are. We are on lands, I am on lands that have long served as a place of refuge, gathering, and sustenance for many peoples, including the Arawandran and the Haudenosaunee. And this is Treaty 3 territory. I am situated in Guelph, Ontario. It's the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit, and it's situated beside the Haldimand Tract, which is part of the long established traditional hunting grounds of Six Nations of the Grand River. And certainly many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples from across Turtle Island call Guelph home, yet the history of this place reaches far deeper than the arrival of settlers. For hundreds of years, the Iroquois Confederacy and the Anishinaabe peoples upheld the dish with one spoon law, an agreement to share and protect the land's resources peacefully with reciprocity and to take only what is needed. And this treaty, later known as the Between the Lakes Purchase, was established first in 1784 and renegotiated under force in 1792 between the Haudenosaunee, the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the British Loyalists. And as I offer this acknowledgement, I do so not only as a guest on these lands, but as someone who arrived in Canada as an immigrant from the still beautiful, I call it still beautiful because of Hurricane Melissa, island of Jamaica. My parents came seeking opportunities that could create a better future for their four, now five children. When I arrived, I did not know, nor did my Canadian education teach me the histories of Indigenous peoples or the realities of colonial settlement on this land. I also did not yet understand the parallels between Jamaica's Indigenous Maroons and Arawaks and the first peoples of what we now call Canada. But I do know now, and I also understand that the devastation that we witnessed during Hurricane Melissa being one example, and I might add, where Rotary played an important part through Shelter Box to help Rotarians in Jamaica continue to work to rebuild the country. So I have to give shout out to Rotary for that. Is a direct outcome of our collective failure to learn from the past, to protect the land, and to commit to healing and sustainable futures. Our histories offer lessons, it offers warnings, and it offers guidance. And when we ignore them, the consequences are profound. As a member of the Jamaican diaspora, I carry with me the rhythms, the memories, and the ancestral echoes of an island shaped by African, indigenous, and colonial histories. Those resonances connect deeply with the stories of this land and with the work we honor here tonight. This acknowledgement then must be more than words. It must move us to deepen our understanding of Indigenous cultures, histories, and sovereignties, and to pursue meaningful actions that advance truth, reconciliation, and relationship. Let us also honor all other than human beings who suffer in the wake of our own humanity's pursuit of modernity and progress. Let us, as a part of a connected global north, better understand the ecological cost, our own complicity, and our shared responsibility to surface truth and to act in reconciling the harms and the good that accompanies caring for each other, caring for our planet toward what we're discussing tonight, our foundation at Rotary, and that is peace.
Thank you, Marva. Um, this is on the heels of following Peace Building Month through Rotary. And I would just like to point out the term truth and truth telling. We're going to talk a little bit later in our presentation about truth and the pursuit of truth and how um, misinformation is causing so much harm in society today. So we'll get there. Before we go there, I want to do a little bit of a tech check. We spent some time before going through all the little idiosyncrasies of this. This is a webinar versus a traditional Zoom meeting that I would do. And I don't know that you can put comments in a chat. Can somebody come off mute and let me know if as a
Yes,
viewer,
there
can you?
there is a chat Q&A. That's not a problem.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to confirm that. And I also wanted to confirm when I share the screen, which I'm about to do, um, do you only see the screen? Do you see our faces along the bottom?
Along the top
Along the
or
bottom,
top.
along the top, wherever you are. Okay, that's all I wanted to do. Thank you, Marva. And thank you for allowing me to indulge in this little tech check just for my own reassurance. I just want to start out with this quote, and we're going to end off with this quote because it's a Paul Harris quote, and the best way to change the world is to start with yourself.
Mm.
And I just want you to reflect on that and the power of being someone who's centered in peace and the power that we bring to the community as peace builders. And I think when we talk about peace and we talk about the District Peace Committee, um, often I don't think Rotarians realize how much they're contributing to peace by doing the things that we do every day. And it's very important that we continue to do those things that we've been doing for over 100 years, because as we know, the world needs that now. The world needs Rotarians. The world needs what we're doing at a local and international level to make sure that we continue to do our part in peace. Marva and I came together on this journey when we went to a peace conference in Istanbul last year. It was the International Rotary Peace Conference, and they chose Istanbul because it's a country that straddles two continents. It really is the old meeting the new. It's extremely diverse. And it was a platform for dialogue. And it was about a year now that we returned from the peace conference. And at that time, the world was adjusting to a second term of the president in the US. And a lot of things were happening with the deconstruction of systems in the US. And so I raised this because so much has changed in that year. But at the point that we were there, so much had changed in 6 weeks since the new president had come on board. So we went there with very wide open eyes, and we were very and I'm going to ask you to jump in too, Marva. We were very heartened to see who they brought in to speak and how committed Rotary continues and maintains in their peace and in their history of peace. Would you add anything to that, Marva?
I absolutely would. And I think also the breadth of representation from
Yeah.
almost every country in the world that you could think of. There are people there. I think Kathy was there as well, right, Kathy?
Yeah.
And that there was a support and ecosystem. We're going to be talking a little bit later probably about binary and all of that. But there was an ecosystem of people that were like-minded, and even the Americans that were there felt that they were among people who were supporting them toward a similar goal of the goal that we're a common humanity and we're here to serve and we're here for good. And that those were things that really struck me, that so many Rotarians were from such desperate backgrounds and desperate geographical areas, and yet there was such a collective of where we need to go, and I think the angst that we were all feeling, and how we can work together to reduce that angst and support each other.
Thank you, Marva. Just before I ask you all a question to throw into the chat or the Q&A there, or to speak up, I just want to touch on the dove. The dove, you may or may not know, is an international symbol of peace. It goes across cultures. It is just a very simple symbol of peace. From my tradition, from the Christian tradition, it was a symbol from the story of Noah's Ark, where Noah sent I believe it was the raven out, and the raven didn't return. But the dove was sent out, and the dove returned with an olive branch. And that was a symbol that, oh, okay, that we're coming to land. And it is a symbol of peace and hope in the midst of darkness.
Mm.
And that's how I like to think of us as Rotarians, that we are, when you see that wheel, whether it's at a concert band shell, whether it's at a well, whether it's at a Reading Buddies program, there is some level of peace and hope in whatever action we're doing. And so I like to think of the wheel almost aligned with that dove. And I just wanted to make sure as we go through this that you do understand where that comes from. So I do have a question for the chat. When you hear the phrase, or when you saw the phrase, act locally, build globally, what three words immediately come to mind? What does that make you think of? And I think there is, I guess, just put in the Q&A. Let me see if I can find the Q&A here so I can see what people are writing. And feel free to come off of mute too if you'd like to just kind of say a couple.
Maybe this one will encourage folks to just shout out um, the words that come to mind.
Jane says, love, community, hope. Love those
Mm.
words, Jane. Thank you. Feeling safe, the feeling of safety. Anybody else? Okay, well, let's keep going. I want you to think about,
Oh, can I say Brian says
oh,
responsibility?
responsibility. Okay, now they're coming in. Now that I
Start
shut
with
it down.
myself. I'll yell it out as you're doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
When I hear act locally, build globally, it is all of those things. And I'd like to add Rotarian to that
Mm.
because that is what we as Rotarians are doing. Every project, conversation, partnership, the fellowship, the webinars, the good deeds, all of that is contributing to a tapestry of peace. Everything your club is doing locally is fitting into the big picture somehow. And how we do that, whether it's committee work, whether it's board work, all of that also contributes to the tapestry. Providing leadership opportunities for people who may not have had those leadership opportunities, providing places for youth. All of these things are examples of acting locally, and they are expanding. And then we go to an international conference, and never has it been so evident to me that what we do locally, and then we go and we celebrate with all of these other folks, it matters. And so, what we're going to try and do today is demonstrate some of the things and how they are making that global connection. Martin Luther King Jr. said this, and we want to talk a little bit about peace, but true peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is also the presence of justice. And so you can have systems, and I see this in my work every day, where avoidance and avoiding having the conversation or avoiding addressing the justice creates peace in the moment, but it also creates what's called latent conflict, which is it's beneath the surface. It's not on top of the surface. So temporarily it feels okay, but what happens is it comes out eventually, or it comes out in different ways, such as violent systems or ways that people are harmed in different ways. So, as a Rotarian, we're called to be the best versions of ourselves. Service above self. This means engaging in meaningful, sometimes difficult conversations. And as Rotarians, we're called to cultivate individual peace. We're called to self-reflect. We're called to do things that challenge us sometimes. And when you cultivate inner peace, when you become a positive force in your family, your workplace, your community, the actions, the words, all of those things ripple outward and they start to shape the environment around you. And as individual clubs, this ripple effect is what we're doing in communities. Marva, I'm going to tap in. Anything to add here?
Mhm. I'm just adding, Nagwa mentioned do more alone first, which is a reflection of what we're talking about, working on ourselves so that we can be ready for conflict that might present itself. And sometimes we are not able to eliminate conflict, but we can mitigate conflict when we have those conversations. It surfaces everything. And again, going back to our Rotary connection, the understanding is that we are all working in areas to foster peace. It's how can we develop tools based on the kind of environment that we're in right now to help us foster peace within ourselves, within our homes, within our environment, within our community. And hopefully the ripple effect will be much broader than that.
Another way of looking at that, um, often people look at conflict as, as a scary thing
Yeah.
or a bad thing. And in fact, an absence of conflict can signal power imbalance. It can signal oppression. It can signal that there's no growth. And an absence of conflict can also be harmful. And so getting comfortable in the discomfort is where the self-reflection comes from. How do you respond in conflict? Do you freeze? Do you run away? Do you try to please? Do you yell? It doesn't matter how you show up in conflict. It's the self-awareness so that you can start to become a better version of yourself. And again, the actions, the words, the attitudes, those are the things that create the impact. Peace is not something you wish for, it's something you make, something you do, something you are, something you give away. Peace is active. And a word like peace sounds so passive, but it's an action like love. It's an action like responsibility. Going into this terminology of peace, this is the peace spectrum, and it looks at peace from different ways. So positive peace, which is where Rotary comes from, is the presence of justice, equity, and harmonious relationships in society built on systems that promote human rights, inclusion, and well-being. So at the conference, Rotary took a stand and said, okay, positive peace is where we want to come from. The barriers to that positive peace can be structural. So structural can mean any kind of system. It can be a policy. You can see what structural systems have the potential to do when they're taken away. And all we need to do is look to our southern neighbors and see what happens when they take some of the structures that support people with education, with healthcare, with sending support to developing countries. These things have been deconstructed and it's causing greater chaos. So it can also be cultural or coercive peace. Coercive peace is where we're threatening you or bullying you that if you don't do this, then this will happen. So these are structures or institutions that can cause harm or where peace is maintained through force. Negative peace, which is where most people think peace, is the absence of direct violence or war, but it doesn't have the presence of justice, equality, or some of the underlying tensions. The underlying tensions are all there. They're underneath the surface, they're latent. And then direct conflict and violence is what we typically think of as war and peace. That is the other end of the spectrum. That is open hostility. That's what we're seeing today.
One of the things that former DG Doug Vincent has put in the Q&A talks around conflict. He say how people respond in conflict is often influenced by their upbringing or ethnic background and culture. Just wanted to share that.
There's a great resource on intercultural perspectives, and happy to share resources. But often where people come from, it's not a stereotype, but more whether people are in their culture are used to being an individualist or a collectivist. Power distance is another one. It's risk tolerance. All of these things contribute to how you are culturally raised in a conflict style. And so that's a great addition to that. I think you said it was Doug, Marva?
Yes.
So yes, there are all kinds of different things that contribute to how you can handle and manage peace. Rotary's approach to peace building, as just noted, was moving beyond negative peace to positive peace to address root causes, promote justice, and build inclusive communities. Recognizing this can help clubs design projects that create lasting, meaningful changes. And so I want to go into, I think we have oh, no, we have a poll coming up soon, not just yet. If we look along this peace spectrum again, and we look at what Rotary is doing and how peace shows up in Rotary, the things that we are doing that is considered positive peace is the tree planting, is environmental stewardship. It is Indigenous awareness, truth, and reconciliation. It's youth wellness. It's cultural learning and exchanges. All of those are contributing to understanding, fostering connection, fostering love. These things are building positive peace. The barriers to peace that we're facing, that we're helping to contribute to, are systemic poverty, lack of access to healthcare or education. There's religious or cultural intolerance, prejudice, social norms. Those are all the barriers that exist in our communities today that are barriers to peace. But we are addressing issues around systemic poverty by contributing to the agencies or the organizations that are helping with that. Negative peace, human trafficking. Again, Rotary shows up in that. Segregation, suppression of voice. Those all contribute to negative peace. Again, we have direct conflict and violence. I'm going to stay a little bit away from that in this particular model, but I just want to slow down, take a look at the questions, and see if anybody else wants to add some of the things their clubs might be doing to contribute to positive peace. Or maybe it's a question, would this be contributing to positive peace? And Marva, I would invite you to add your own.
Romeo has said it could be through a common definition of humanity, which is great.
Beautiful. Yeah.
When we look at what peace is. And I just want to say very quickly, so many times peace seems like it's a, sort of an abstract something that is out of our grasp. And when Crista spoke about all the different things that we're doing to foment peace, we often see those are actions or activities within Rotary and not peace building. So I think it's really great that we're becoming more aware worldwide of what peace is and perhaps what peace isn't or what it doesn't exclude.
I do like to believe that when we are in committee meetings or we are out fundraising
Yeah.
or we are alongside a reading buddy, that is a peace building act. Rotarians are peace builders. We don't call ourselves that. We may not see ourselves as that. Even peace building through sports, peace building through arts, all of those things are important elements that help create connection. They foster understanding. In our, weekly meetings, we are cross-generationally, interculturally understanding each other more. I just want to,
And I'm going to move us forward a little bit, Crista,
yeah,
only because I'm mindful that there's going to be a Q&A at the end, and you have some polls that you want folks to take as
yes.
well. So we're probably going to go through the slides a wee bit faster. Just
That is my friend Marva saying, speed it up, Crista. Okay. So again, Rotary prescribes to the 8 pillars of positive peace. I have them up there in front of you. And we're going to talk about these in a minute. Well-functioning government, equitable distribution of resource. What I want to do is localize that now. And so well-functioning government looks like civic engagement or informed participation. Equitable distribution of resources looks like community-led solutions or funding distribution. So equitable distribution of resources when we raise our funds and then we put them out into the community and we support food, housing, global projects. That is equitable distribution of resources. We are building these pillars of positive peace. Free flow of information, media literacy, truth and reconciliation, amplifying voices. Good relations with neighbors. That could be cross-cultural partnerships or community collaborations. High levels of human capital. This is where we promote youth leadership, education, mental health and wellness. Acceptance of the right of others is creating inclusive spaces in our clubs. Truth and reconciliation learning, again, amplifying voices. Low levels of corruption comes from our modeled ethical leadership, accountability, integrity, and action. Our 4-way test is an example of what we stand for. And then a sound business environment. It's again, ethical business practices, fair employment, vocation, raising leaders up in our clubs. It's also modeled through effective board leadership as an example. So we are building all of these things into our club and they are built on these pillars of peace. I do have a poll. If I could get you to put that up, Sunil.
Yes, I'm doing it.
And while Sunil is doing that, Scott has something in the chat saying that my gentle way of asking about moving along quickly was ensuring peace. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, and it's respecting time. So I just went through those pillars very quickly, but which pillar best reflects where your club or organization is already making an impact? Just asking you for a single choice.
Can everyone see the poll?
Yep.
Thank you.
Now I can see the poll. Can everybody else see the poll as it populates? Okay. What I see is 12 out of 12, 13 of 13 have answered.
Nahua says no.
Oh, you can't. Okay, I have to end the poll and then you'll see it. Okay, some answers are still coming in. Once I end the poll, I believe you'll be able to see it.
Let me know when to end the poll.
You can go ahead and end that, Sunil.
Okay. You want to share the results?
Yes. Can you see the results?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Oh, here it
No.
is now. It's up now. There's a delay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Acceptance of the rights of others. Now we only had about half the people answer, but acceptance of rights and good relations with neighbors seems to be sort of a strong pillar that this group is maintaining. So
Mhm.
thank you for that. We'll do a couple other polls as well. This presentation will be available to everybody as well. Okay. Let me just keep moving. I just want to check my. Okay. Think I had a lag here. This is from a district perspective, which we've already talked about, what the district is doing. And these are just things that again, Rotary Club of Guelph, Rotary Forest and Tree Planting, the Indigenous Awareness and Truth Reconciliation. We are deepening the understanding of diversity, equity, justice, and inclusion, and then some of the youth wellness projects that we're doing. Now we're getting more into the key messages of the conference and why some of this matters. And Marva, I'm going to ask you to jump into some of this.
Mhm.
And you tell me to move ahead or move along if you'd like me to
Yes, yes.
move along.
Certainly, I think one of the things that really struck all of us, all the attendees, and I think it will resonate with you, is that $2.4 trillion is spent on war, but a pittance is spent on peace. And if we look at that, what's that is outside of our control, what governments decide to spend on war, but within our control is the work that we do locally, and I go back to local all the time. And most importantly, peaceable countries have a higher GDP, a higher GDP. Those were things that were clarion calls to all of us, the importance for us to strive for peace. And then it talks about the dollars on military spending. It's less, it means that it's less available for education. Crista just referred to, lots of cancellations that have taken place across the world recently, whether it be WHO or food programs, all of those things are canceled. Education, vaccinations are canceled, but military spending is up. And then if we say that GDP spent on military makes more war, you can see how that becomes problematic. And us as Rotarians want to knock our heads up against the wall. So the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about polarization, social media, and AI. And this could be a webinar all on its own. I had the pleasure of spending some time last night at the Upper Grand District School Board of Education. They were talking about AI and AI used in education, and all of us are either was a child of this whatever school board it was, or we have children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews or whomever that are participating in our educational system. What he talked about, the Board of Education director, the report that they put forward was a report that linked human rights and having a more of a peaceable existence, human rights to AI. Similarly, my connection to Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy, totally different places, but they have linked AI again to human rights, to integrity, to empathy, all those softer sides of leadership that we hear about and heard talked about. And from that, I have a little reading that I'm going to share with you from a book called Standing in the Fire, a speculative inquiry into meta relationality and generative AI. Now, when we talk about polarization, Psychology Today says that polarization happens when complex issues become a binary fight between two opposing teams. Instead of seeing a spectrum of possibilities, we see right or wrong. We see opposites. We see enemies. Conversation become battles. Disagreements become failure. So, on the face of it, if you have leadership, whether it's in Rotary or elsewhere, that encourages this divisiveness and doesn't enter into conversation fairly, or leaders elsewhere, we can think of some. I invite you to think of your own leader we need to get past how we look at divisiveness, and we need to get past how we select and elect leaders that foment those kinds of behavior. And if we don't, then we're going to have a challenge with AI. Similarly, how those leaders were able to use social media. So last night at the Board of Education presentation of this report, they talked about, and even he presented to us at Rotary on Friday as well, talked about how social media, we missed the boat on that. We let it go and we thought it was going to do us good and it's going to advance all of us. And then we have found out that it's causing more issues, mental health issues, emotional issues, divisiveness. We have another opportunity with AI now to do what we didn't do around social media. So let me just read this very briefly with you. We talk about this AI piece, all of it is unfolding amid a cascade of interlocking meltdowns, planetary limited crossed, accelerating climate emergency, ongoing mass extinction. It's called a polycrisis. Modernity is where we are now, things that we have developed to say this is going to make our lives better. We talk about quick fixes, rapid binary framing of everything, performance certainty, compulsive policymaking become irrelevant when the ground itself is shifting faster than the frameworks built to stand on it. Do you feel the ground shifting? I know that I do. In this context, artificial intelligence arrives as a multiplier of impacts, like psychedelics as a non-specific amplifier. And then it emerges for many as yet another existential threat, but also for some of us as a threshold. Alongside the technical questions of scale, safety, alignment, and control, a deeper set of questions is being made available. What kind of intelligence is being encoded here? What kind of relationships does it mirror to invite? What kind of world does it extend? And what kind of world might it interrupt? So we're not thinking about AI as a negative or something that is going to upend our world. We're thinking about how we can use AI for good. And so when we talk about this polarization and the forces that lead to polarization, how can we bring this tool as AI and help it to work for us and approach it the way we have not approached our stewardship of this planet and really of each other? Over to you,
Thank you.
Crista.
Thank you, Marva. There's a poll I'd like you to put up, Sunil, because this piece of polarization is important. When you think about economic anxiety, institutional imbalance, mass class divide, pursuit of truth, or these things are all contributing to the polarization. It's almost as if they're manufactured. So, thinking in your own experience, what do you think, or what factor do you think is contributing most to polarization today? And again, if you think of AI as a tool, a force for good or not, it is creating economic anxieties right now. It is creating imbalances right now. It is creating divides. All of these things that this tool is doing because of policy, it is being allowed to happen. So I see it says host and panelists can't vote, but everybody else can vote. So has the poll been launched?
Yes, poll is launched,
Okay.
and I
Okay.
see 7 out of 18.
Oh, okay. Great.
There.
Thank you. And it's really hard to take a look at this list and think it's just one thing or the other.
Mhm.
Because when you look at these factors and you start to combine them, it's no wonder we're feeling the anxieties of what we're experiencing today.
Mhm.
So I'm going to end the poll in about
Okay.
10 more seconds.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm ending the poll now. I'm going to share the results. Can
Wow.
everyone see the results?
Wow.
And when you look at social media and you look at algorithms, You know, that's a direct consequence of that.
So I'm stop sharing it now.
Yeah, thank
Mhm.
you. Um, just bring this.
And from the chat, Krista,
Yep.
Ingrid has said, oh no, she says she's back, but that's okay. Nagua said Rotary supports refugees as part of actions toward peace. Carol St. Laurent says the best intervention I can envision for peace is to make war profits illegal. Until then, we can do a social campaign to recognize they're immoral and tax them for peace. Okay, thank you all.
The key takeaway I want to highlight here is it was very clear that the perception of polarization is stronger than the polarization itself.
Mm,
And so, what I want to highlight in this is that if you feel that you and someone else are on completely different ends of a spectrum on a particular issue, chances are, if you continue to have conversations, you continue to ask questions, you will see that you are not as polarized as you think. But when the world is saying this is the way it is, it's easy to take a stand and it's more difficult to go into the nuance that Marva just read from that powerful quote. So I just want to highlight that the perception is actually stronger than what's happening.
absolutely. And may I, Krista, say that this book is written by Vanessa Machado de Oliveira. She's a professor at University of Victoria and head of a dean of the department. And Aidan Cinnamon Tea. And Aidan Cinnamon Tea is a bot. And they both wrote this book together.
Interesting. Okay. So this is just a simple slide to say, here's how you build peace. Here's
Yes.
how you create violence. And it all starts with indifference and then opening
Mm.
up and moving up that. So I do just want to jump ahead. Standing up for what's right is getting more difficult, especially if you can see both sides of a point
Mhm.
and you are not able to say, here's how I see it. And you're able to take a stand that might make somebody mad or might upset people, or they say things that you weren't expecting them to say. So, this is a great quote. It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to our enemies, but just as much to stand up to our friends. And this
Mhm.
is where friends, family, neighbors, um, this polarization, remember, it is more highly perceived than it actually is. I will just go quickly into a couple actions we can take to help heal a divided world. Um, be the best version of yourself. We talked about that. Engage with and encourage others to have difficult conversations. Engage in conversations in the heart and mind of a good host. Marva, will you explain that?
Mhm. One of the there's a book that I'm reading now, and we love to share books that we're reading, and it's called The Next Conversation. I can't remember his name, but some of you probably have read it. And one of the things that he talks about is when someone is saying something to you, look beyond the words and look to their heart. See if you can listen to their heart and the intention behind what it is they're saying, even if it's something that is relatively negative. What is their motivation? And then respond based on that. Because sometimes if we reflexively respond based on the words that come out of the person's mouth right away, then we end up being more polarized. I just wanted to share that
Yeah.
the next conversation, if you're able to read that book.
And one of the ways you can sort of lead with the heart, if somebody has a very different opinion from you, rather than try and think, yeah, you're right, you're wrong, just how did you come to care about this so much? It's just a question that neutralizes the intensity and
Yes,
it demonstrates curiosity because curiosity creates openness,
yes,
judgment creates positions.
yes,
Um,
absolutely. And Scott Hibbert has just said, save me again. Jefferson Fisher is the author of The Next Conversation. Is
thank you.
pretty incredible. Thank you, Scott.
Again, other things, peace requires more than hope. As Rotarians, we do things that matter now more than ever. What we do matters, so act. Foster
Mhm.
inclusion, get youth involved, focus on mental health and social healing. Interact clubs are important. Um, that's a double. again, we're back to this quote. The best way to change the world is to start with yourself. I'd like you to pull up the last poll, Sunil.
Yes.
These are just individual actions Rotarians can take to cultivate peace. And it's asking you, what can you do? What will you do? What is your club doing to support peace? There you go.
The poll is on.
Thank you. And if you have something else, yeah, choose as many as you'd like. And if you have something else, love to see them in the chat.
Poll will end in another 30 minutes, 30 seconds. Sorry.
Yeah, no, not 30 minutes.
15 seconds, I'd say, Sunil.
Yeah.
10 more seconds. Okay, I'm ending the poll.
Support youth to take to the RILA, Rotary Youth Leadership Academy. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Model empathy and respect in everything you do.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Challenge misinformation thoughtfully. Thank you. Build inclusive partnerships. Yes, those some partnerships are very important. And then one we have in the chat here is support youth, specifically in RILA. Marva, anything else to add? We're open to questions now. This was our experience. It's what stood out to us. I'm sure you have lots of questions. You have like 5 minutes left, but let's hear what you have.
Yes, I'm going to turn it over to everyone with their questions. We'd love to hear from you. This is an extreme close-up photo, so I'm going to suggest that
We go move on.
we
I just want to highlight, use the four-way test absolutely in everything you do. And Carol, I'm just going to do a little call out to Carol. Carol is a Rotarian Peace Fellow.
yes.
She's on the call, and teaching peace is at the core of her heart and what she's doing to make the world a better place. And teaching peace is and teaching skills around peace is such an important thing to do. So thank you for that, Carol.